are many follicles, we can develop more follicles. But the one dominant follicle is needed for each cycles of the menstruation. For that, for positive feedback and negative feedbacks are overcome for the production of dominant follicle. The first event in the process of atresia is the reduction in the FH receptors in the granulosa layers. A wave of atresia among these follicles is seen to parallel the rising estrogen. Next, ma. Next, pa. Next, the lower gonadotropin releasing hormone pulse frequencies favor FSH secretions and higher gonadotropin releasing hormone pulse frequency favor LH secretions. So FSH and LSH decide the ovulations. Low levels of estrogen enhances FSH and LH synthesis and storage, have a little effect on LH secretion and inhibit of FH secretions. Next, ma'am, this slide explains the FSH, estrogen, and LH interaction between the three hormones and the production and the development of the dominant follicle. You can see. So high levels of estrogen induce the LH surge at mid-cycle. So during the ovulation, that is, mid-cycle means that is during the ovulation, the LH surge is needed for the ovulation. So high level of estrogen induce the LH surge, and high steady levels of estrogen lead to sustained elevated LH secretions. So low levels of progesterone acting at the level of the pituitary gland enhance the LH response to gonadotropin releasing hormone and are responsible for the FSH surge in mid-cycle. So LH and FSH surge is important for the ovulation. High levels of progesterone inhibit pituitary secretions of gonadotropins by inhibiting gonadotropin releasing hormone pulses at the level of the hypothalamus. Next slide, ma. Coming to the other hormones, next, ma, next. Coming to the other hormones are inhibin, activin, and follistatin. So these hormones are families of peptides. These are synthesized by granulosa cells in the response to the FSH. In the response to the FSH surge, the granular cells are secrete inhibin, activin, and follistatin, and they are secreted into the follicular fluid and ovarian venous effluent. They are expressed in many tissues throughout the body as autocrine, paracrine regulators. Coming to inhibin, inhibin is an important inhibitor of FSH secretions. So inhibins will inhibit the FSH. Activin stimulates FSH release in the pituitary and augments FSH action in the ovary. The follistatin suppresses FSH activity by binding to activin. So inhibin and follistatin will suppress the FSH secretion, and activin stimulates the FSH in the pituitary. Coming to inhibin, the inhibin blocks the synthesis and secretion of FSH and prevents upregulation of gonadotropin releasing hormone receptors by gonadotropin releasing hormone. The inhibin reduces the number of gonadotropin releasing hormone receptors present at high concentrations, promote the intracellular degradation of the gonadotropins. So inhibin blocks the synthesis and secretions of FSH. Coming to the pre-ovulatory follicle, granular cells in the pre-ovulatory follicles enlarge. Granular cells in the pre-ovulatory follicle enlarge and occur lipid. Can change next slide, ma. Next. Next, ma. Next. Yes. Coming to pre-ovulatory follicle, granular cells in the pre-ovulatory follicle enlarge and occur lipid inflations, and the thicker cells becomes vacuolated. You can see the picture, and vacuolation we can see in the picture, and richly vascular, and it is high vascular, giving the pre-follicular follicle a hyperemic appearance. We can see the hyperemesis surrounding the follicle. The oocyte proceeds in meiosis, approaching completion of its reduction division. Approaching maturity, the pre-ovulatory follicle produces increasing amounts of estrogen. So estrogen peaks approximately 24 to 36 hours prior to ovulation. So prior to ovulation, FSH search and LH search and estrogen level will be in more. Then the onset, as I told, no, this slide will explain. Next. Next slide. Yeah, as I told, no, the LH search and FS search. This slide explained about the LH search. The onset of the LH search occurs when the peak levels of estradiol are achieved. In providing the ovulative stimulus to the selected follicle, the LH search seals the fate of the remaining follicles and their lower estrogen and the FS content by further increasing androgen superiority. LH promotes luteinization of the granulosa cells in the dominant follicle and resulting in the production of progesterone. Next slide. Next slide. Can you hear me, ma? I'm audible to you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We can continue.
Yeah. After adequate estrogen priming, progesterone facilitates the positive feedback response. And in the presence of subthreshold levels of estradiol, can induce a characteristic LH surge. When administered before the estrogen stimulus or higher doses more than 2 nanogram per milliliter, progesterone blocks the mid-cycle LH surge. So progesterone, if you administer progesterone, it will inhibit the LH surge. Progesterone at mid-cycle is significantly responsible for the FSH surge. Thus, it ensures the completion of FSH action in the follicle, especially making sure that a full complement of LH receptors is in a place in the granulosa cells. As products of theca tissues are androgens, the increase in the stromal tissue in the late follicular phase is associated with rise in androgen levels. Next slide. Coming to the next slide, the corpus luteum rapidly declines 9 to 11 days after ovulation. After ovulation occurs, the dominant follicle will regress to corpus luteum. So this leads to formation of corpus luteum. So the regression of luteal cells is induced by estradiol produced by the corpus luteum. So the action of estrogen is mediated by nitric acid. The final signals for luteolysis, however, is prostaglandin F2 alpha produced within the ovary in response to the locally synthesized luteal estrogen. Next slide. The threshold of LH concentration must be maintained for at least 14 to 27 hours in order to full maturation of the oocyte to occur. So usually the LH surge lasts 48 to 50 hours. LH, FSH progesterone growth factors will activate the plasmogen activator synthesis, leads to granulosa and theca cells. This leads to plasmid and leads to next slide. Collagenase formation. This disturbs the follicular wall. So this leads to formation of corpus luteal cyst. So estrogen levels. Change. Can you change to the next slide? Yeah, next slide, ma. I explain this. Estrogen levels. Next slide. Estrogen levels plunge as LH reaches peaks. This may be a consequence of LH down-regulation of its own receptors on the follicle. It is due to high LH causes suppression of So it is due to high LH surge suppression of stereogenesis, low mid-cycle levels of progesterone, and exertant inhibitory action and further granular cell multiplication, and hence it drops the estrogen level. So estrogen can exert inhibitory effect on, as we told you, 450C17 and aromatase enzyme is important enzymes for the aromatization. And coming to luteal phase, for the luteal phase, we all of you know that it is a formation of corpus luteum. So So coming next slide.
He can hear me.
Okay. So coming to gluteal phase, granular cells increase in size and assume a characteristic backloaded appearance associated with the accumulation of yellowish pigment lutein. So the theca lutein cells may differentiate from the surrounding theca and stroma to become part of the corpus luteum. The angiopoietin 1 binds to the endothelial
Next slide.
tight.
Next slide.
Hello, next slide, ma. Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Next slide. Yes,
Yes.
next slide, ma. Then angiopoietin 1 binds to the endothelial type 2 receptors and inclusion expression of VGEF and LH. This leads to angiogenesis. The angiopoietin 2 leads to vascular breakdown that accompanies luteolysis. So vascularization and granulocytosis is essential to allow LDL cholesterol to reach the luteal cells to provide sufficient substrate for progesterone. By 8th and 9th day after ovulation, a peak of vascularization is reached, associated with peak levels of progesterone and estradiol in the blood. The leukocytes in the corpus luteum secrete cytolytic enzymes and prostaglandins and growth factors involved in angiogenesis and steroidogenesis and luteolysis. The endothelium 1 is a mediator of luteolysis. Next slide, ma. Next slide, ma. Next. The luteal cell population is composed of two distinct cell types, large and small cells. The large cells are derived from granular cells and the small cells are derived from theca cells. The small cells are most abundant. Steroidogenesis takes place in the large cells. Small cells contain LH and HSG receptors. The LH and HSG receptor are absent in the large cells. The corpus luteum.
Next slide.
Next slide, ma. Changing now.
Yes.
The corpus luteum rapidly declines to 9 days to 11 days after ovulation. The regression of luteal cells is induced by estradiol production by the corpus luteum. This action of estrogen is mediated by nitric acid. The final signal for luteal is the ovary's prostaglandin F2 alpha and produced within the ovary in response to localized synthesized luteal estrogen. The prostaglandin F2 alpha stimulates the synthesis of endothelin 1 and the endothelin 1 inhibits luteal steroidogenesis and stimulates prostaglandin production in luteal cells and it stimulates release of TNF alpha which induces apoptosis. Coming to luteal follicular transition.
Diagram is
Okay. Next slide, ma. Yes, this slide only, ma. The damage of the corpus luteum results in an adder in the circulating levels of steroidal and progesterone and inhibin. So the corpus luteum depends the hormones. This includes estrogen, progesterone, and inhibin. The decrease in inhibin A remove a suppressing influence on FSH secretion in the pituitary, and the decrease in estradiol progesterone allows a progressive and rapid increase in the frequency of gonadotropin releasing hormone, pulsatile secretion, and a removal of the pituitary hormone from negative feedback suppression. The removal of inhibin A and estradiol and increasing GnRH pulses combine to allow greater secretion of FSH compared with the LH, with an increase in the frequency of the episodic secretion. The increase in FSH instrumental in securing approximately 70-day-old group of ready follicles from the atresia, allowing a dominant follicle to begin in emergence. Next slide, ma. This slide shows the luteal follicular transition time. So this table column shows the daily production of hormones during follicular phase, ovulation, and luteal phase. So the daily production of estradiol and progesterone during follicular phase, estradiol 50, progesterone 2 to 3. In case of after ovulation, 150 to 300. Estradiol. Then luteal phase, estradiol secretes amount of 100 and progesterone 20 to 30. In estradiol, the total coming to daily secretion, total estrogen and pregnenolone in case of follicular phase 10 to 25. During ovulation, it is 35 to 100, and in case of luteal phase 25 to 75. From the mid luteal peak to menses, there is a 4.5 to 4 to 5 fold increase in LH pulse frequency. FSH pulse frequency increases 3.5 fold. So the increase in FSH. Next slide, ma'am. The increase in FSH as noted greater than lot of LH. Coming to uterine cycle, it includes two phases, that is proliferative phase and secretive phase. Coming to the proliferative phase, the glands, the glands are gets proliferated. That is, the glands are narrow and tubular and lined by low columnar epithelium cells. It undergoes mitosis and pseudostaticization also occurring during the proliferative phase. Continuous epithelial lining phase, the endometrial cavity is formed. All of the tissues components of demonstrate proliferation, which peaks on days 8 to 10th day of the cycle, corresponding to peak estradiol levels and the circulation and the maximum estrogen receptor concentration in the endometrium. Okay. Next slide. Next slide, ma'am. So all of the tissue components demonstrate proliferation, which peaks on days 8 to 10th day of the cycle, corresponding to peak estradiol levels in the circulation and maximum estrogen receptor concentration in the endometrium. Changes are more intense in the functional layer in the upper two-thirds of the uterus. So the usual site of blastocyst implantation. So the endometrium grows from approximately 0.5 mm to 3.52 mm in height. So the restoration of tissue constitute has been achieved by estrogen-induced regrowth as well as incorporation of iron, water, and amino acids. An important feature of the estrogen-dominant phase of endometrial growth is the increase in ciliated and microvillus cells. And then coming to secretory phase, the endometrium. Next slide, ma'am. Next, yeah. The endometrium now demonstrates a combined reaction to estrogen and progesterone activity. The epithelial proliferation ceases 3 days after ovulation. So total endometrial height is fixed at roughly 3 ovulation 5 to 6 mm despite continuous availability of the estrogen. This limitation is due to progesterone interference with the estrogen receptor expression. So the stimulus of 70 beta hydroxy dehydrogenase and sulfur granulate which convert estradiol to stone sulfate. It is rapidly secreted from this cell. Space growth, but confinement in a fixed structure leads to progressive torsion of glands and intensity coiling of the spiral vessels. So this is important for the endometrial proliferation, for the formation of blastocyst implantation future in life. Okay, if a patient gets pregnant, this is important for the implantation of the embryo. First histological sign that ovulation occurred is the appearance of subnuclear intracytochronic glycogen vacuole in the glandular epithelium on cycle 70 to 80 days. These symptoms or alterations are soon followed by active secretion of glycoprotein cavity. And immunoglobulin obtained from the surface after the mid-cycle monotropy occurs and coinciding with the time of blaster formation. Coming to implantation phase, next slide, ma. By 30 day of post-ovulation, the endometrium has differentiated into three distinct zones. 1/4 of the tissue is the unchanged basalis, straight vessels, and spindle-shaped stroma. The mid portion, approximately 50% of the total, is the lace-like stratum spongiosum, loose edematous stroma with tightly coiled spiral vessels and dilated glandular ribbons. The superficial layer of the endometrium, about 25% of the height, called the stratum compactum, which will become large and polyhedral stromal cell, forming a compact structurally sturdy layer. The subepithelial capillaries and spiral vessels are engorged at the time of implantation, and that means on days of 21 to 22 of the day cycle. The prominent morphic feature of is the edema of the endometrial stroma due to the inclusion of permeability under the influence of steroids. Coming to endometrial breakdown, the absence of fertilization followed by implantation and the consequent lack of HSD from the trophoblast. That means the patient didn't, the patient won't become pregnant. These changes will occur. The fixed lifespan of the corpus luteum is completed and the estrogen and progesterone levels wane. The most important immediate effect of this hormone withdrawal is the modest shrinking of the tissue height and the spiral arterioles vasomotor response. The following vascular, next month, the following vascular sequence occurs with the shrinking of height, blood flow within the spiral vessels diminishes, and venous drainage is decreased, and vasodilatation occurs. Thereafter, the spiral arterioles undergo rhythmic vasoconstriction and relaxation. Each successive spasm is more prolonged and profound, leading eventually to endometrial balancing. Within the 24 hours immediately preceding menstruation, these reactions lead to endometrial ischemia and stasis. The white cells migrate through capillary walls, extending. Next slide, ma'am. White cells migrate through capillary walls, extending toward the stroma. During arteriolar vasomotor changes, the red cells escapes into the interstitial space. The thrombin-plated plugs also appear in the superficial vessels. The prostaglandin content, that means the prostaglandin 5-2 alpha and PGE2 in the secretory endometrium reaches its highest levels at the time of menstruation. The vasoconstriction and myometrial contraction associated with the menstrual events are mediated by prostaglandins from perivascular cells and the potent vasoconstrictor endothelin-1 derived from stromal residual cells. So the menstruation, it has two important events, that is vasoconstrictions, that myometrial contractions, which are mediated by the prostaglandins, and the vasoconstrictor endothelin-1. The first half of the secretory phase, the acid phosphatase and potent lytic enzymes are confined to lysosomes, stabilized by the progesterones, which are released with the waning of its level. This active enzyme will digest their cellular constraints, leading to the release of prostaglandins and the extravasation of red blood cells and tissue necrosis, finally vascular thrombosis. The endometrial tissues break down into involves a family of enzymes that is called matrix metalloproteins. The metalloproteins include collagenases that degrade interstitial and basement membranes collagens, the gelatinases and further degrades the collagens, and the stromolysins that degrades fibronectin and laminin and glycoproteins. So progesterone withdrawal from endometrial cells induces matrix metalloprotein secretions. In non-pregnant cycle, the metalloproteinase expression is suppressed after menses by increasing estrogen levels. Progesterone withdrawal is associated with increase in VEGF receptors concentrations in the chromal cells. Although the VEGF system is usually involved with the angiogenesis, in these cases, these factors. Next slide, ma. In this case, these factors are involved in the preparation of menstruation bleeding, perhaps including the expression of matrix metalloproteinases. Eventually, leakaging occurs as a next slide, ma. Next slide, ma. You change the next. Eventually, leakage occurs as a result of diaphoresis, and finally, interstitial hemorrhage occurs due to breaks in the superficial arterioles and capillaries. Use thrombin-plated flux from the intravascularly upstream at the shedding of the surface, leading to the blood loss. So, menstrual bleeding is influenced by activation of clotting and fibrinolysis. So, for menstrual bleeding, the clotting factors and fibrinolysis are important. So, PA1 exerts important restraining action of fibrinolysis and proteolytic activity. That loss is also controlled by constriction of the spiral arteries. So, spiral arteries will control the blood loss. So, this is mediated by the perivascular cells that is myofibroblast that surrounds the spiral arteries. Next slide, ma. Thrombin generation in the basement endometrium in response to extravasation of blood is essential for the hemostasis. So thrombin is essential for the hemostasis. So the basalis endometrium remains during menses and repair takes place from this layer. So the remaining only the superficial layer of the endometrium will get shedding. So the last layer that is called basalis will help to do the next proliferation of these, endothelial layers for the next menstruation cycle. So this endometrium is protected from the lytic enzymes in the menstruation period by mucinous layer of carbohydrate products that are discharged from the glandular and stromal cells. A natural cleavaging point exists between the basalis and spongiosum, and once reached the loose vascular edematous stromas of the spongium, this commences and collapses. The process is initiated in the fundus and extracts throughout the uterus. Next slide, ma. Within 13 hours, next slide. Next, within 13 hours, the endometrial height shrinks from 4 mm to 1.25 mm. The menstrual flow stops as a result of the combined effects of prolonged vasoconstriction, tissue collapse, and vascular stasis, eventually estrogen-inducing healing. In contrast to postpartum bleeding, that is PPH, myometrium contractions are not important for control of menstrual bleeding. Next slide. Next slide. That's all. Thank you. Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
have completed.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma, over, ma.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm noting down the absentees. Please wait in the call.
Hello?
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 Hello, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
No,
we
ma'am.
can end up the
You
class,
can
no?
leave, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am. I
yeah.
will asking other students to wait so that I will note down the absentees. Then you can
Yeah,
leave, ma'am.
yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much, ma'am.
yeah. I wind up the class now. Okay.
Okay,
And
ma'am.
thank
Sure,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, everyone can leave.
Okay.
Everyone can leave.